It's Sunday morning, October 7th, 2018, and I'm doing what I do on a number of occasions, and that is come out and walk in the mountains. It's easier to find God here than it is in a building somewhere. You know, Jesus himself even would go out onto the lake alone on a boat, out into the wilderness. He went in the synagogue too, and I'm sure he went quite a bit. But of course, there was one time when he read a scripture out of Isaiah, talking about that the prophecy was being fulfilled in their ears. When he read it, and then he had to flee virtually almost for his life. So this is where you can come and listen to the still small voice, along with the sounds of reality, you know. You can hear stream down in the background there. The trees, the breeze, the cool air. There are even some tracks here from what looked like a moose. Pretty amazing. So, I'll let you see the landscape here again. I had that meeting with a couple of ladies in the Owl Bar down in Sundance. Now that's down by Provo, Utah, up in Provo Canyon, on the backside of Timpanogos, which is, I think it's the second largest, highest mountain in Utah. First is Kings Peak, which is up in the Uintas. Right now I'm in a portion of the Wasatch Range. This is called Lambs Canyon. It's up Parley's, about halfway before you get to Park City. And I come here quite a bit. I've been here a number of times. There are homes. There's a road right down there. If you follow that road south up the canyon, you do come to a community up there. There are people that live up there, not just summer type of cabins. And we can go back down, change the scenery. Don't want to make you bored. But as I was saying, I was at Sundance, and you know, we talked about a lot of things. The government, the problem with criminal activity, especially, you know, things like pedophilia, and how rampant these things are in our society. Yes, even in Utah. Actually, I know so much about it, but it's still distressing, because I know that those in power keep their power so that they can engage in these horrible, horrible things and live high on the hog at the same time and rule over others. And I wish I could come out here and just talk about the blessings of nature and all the goodness that we have, which we do. We honestly do. But by the same token, there are those who don't even follow the rudimentary requirements of a godly existence. Oh, they feign it. They pretend it. They talk about their piousness all the time and the necessity of taking care of those less fortunate than themselves. And I'm not talking about just the regular poor, because that's true too. But even Jesus said there that the poor are always with us. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. You know, it's certainly not everybody's responsibility to take care of everybody else. I mean, not in the sense that the state wants to make it so that they can have control and influence and order maintenance. I'm talking about those that we can really make a difference for. One of the requirements that Abraham fulfilled was to take care of the fatherless, the widows, and the orphans. Of all of the requirements in the scriptures of charity and of taking care of the less fortunate, that one stands out both in the Old Testament and the New, including quotes from Jesus himself, that it's really the barometer for what a society does, what it is, its character or its lack thereof. Going back down the hill here. Well, long before the Gospels were written, of course, and even before the Old Testament was the Torah and the Tanakh, the Torah, the books of the law and the prophets. Before, in the writings, the Tanakh is an acronym. Long before that was put down on paper, actually it wasn't paper, it was on stone and papyrus and that type of thing. But if you recall, Abraham sent Lot to live in Sodom and Gomorrah. Not a very nice place. But Lot chose that because it was a fertile area at the time. And Abraham gave up the nicest area. Well, there was a war that happened, and Lot and his family were taken captive. Now, who is Lot? Why is Abraham concerned with Lot? Lot was the son of his dead brother. Lot was the son of Abraham's dead brother. So what did that make Lot? It made him not just Abraham's nephew, it made him an orphan. Abraham took care of him by giving him the very best of the land that he had inherited. Not second-hand land. Abraham took that. Lot did violate some, common sense rules, but Abraham didn't hold that against him. He didn't apply the law to harm him anymore. No. He gave him something better than he had, or he ever would have had. Further, when this war took place and Lot was taken captive along with his family, it was for that very reason, to save the orphan, the fatherless, the widows, the orphan, that Abraham took 300 men and went and warred to free Lot and his family. What do we do today? What do we do today? We make orphans. We make widows. We make people be fatherless and motherless because we say we're a Christian nation, but we don't do anything like it. And I'm going to say it here too, Israel doesn't do anything that true Israelites do either. Matter of fact, a lot of Israelite law is illegal in Israel. I could argue with Laura Loomer on that for quite a while. She'd lose. But the point is, we're not what we claim to be. And I don't know that we ever have been what we claim to be. Yeah, the law is supposed to be blind. The scales of justice are supposed to be held by the blind lady justice. I realize that. But merely because of that, people will justify making unjust law and demanding that people abide by it under some pain or penalty. And I can't go into all the details philosophically. Somebody who really covers this information really well is on YouTube. High Impact Blogs, I think is the name of it. It used to be called High Impact Vids. They took him off because of the things he said, but he's just speaking the truth. But High Impact Blogs is pretty good. He gets into a lot of this detail, much more so than I will here today. But with all this talk about how Christian this nation is, and then they make these laws that are absurd, and then the unjust, uncharitable, unrighteous laws are then used to subjugate and persecute even the widows and the orphans. For what? Law enforcement officers are supposed to have discretion. Not that they allow law violators to get away without some type of action, but that they're supposed to take into account some other things if they're truly administering the law the way they're supposed to. And that means when there are extenuating circumstances and no one is harmed, and it involves the innocent making a mistake, especially if those innocents are widows, the fatherless, or the orphans. There are tons of scriptures that, and not just scriptures, but what should be in our hearts, what should be in our minds, the law of God in our hearts and minds, of what's the right course of action in such a case. And that includes people and families too. When you have these types of tragedies occur, families need to be much more understanding, long-suffering than they would normally. Because those types of losses do things to you. I know, personal experience. So every effort should be made to help those who are suffering in those areas. In particular in those areas. They're actually singled out in the scriptures as being the one time you better do the right thing and not oppress them with illegal laws, take their substance away, separate mothers from children. And no, I'm not talking about the stuff at the border. Because a lot of times they got to find out if those kids are the children of those parents. There's a lot of child trafficking going on. No, I'm talking about laws as they're applied, even in this supposed great state of Utah. They afflict the widows, the fatherless, and the orphans. When they see them lose the breadwinner of the family, there's no real effort to assist them. Not really. Oh, give them a few bucks, put them on welfare maybe. But the banks are still there to take the home when the payments can't be made. The law enforcement is still there to evict them. The law enforcement is there to come down hard on them when in their grief they're just trying to cope with the situation that they've been thrust into. But oh no, we need those convictions. We need to show that we're out there making these arrests and filling the court system and the dockets with myriads of innocents who violated not a law that defines hurting someone else, but merely an edict by the state. Well, this isn't supposed to be a dissertation on the law or get into all the facets of it. But I see what's happened to a particular family, and it's just one of many that I have known about over the years. And this state is ungodly. Its laws are ungodly. Its law enforcers are demons by and large. I don't care what President Trump says. We love our law enforcement, but only in as far as they do not become oppressors, revenue gatherers, crucifiers. Protect the innocent and then turn around and do what they do to the widows and orphans. Wow. Makes me ashamed. I guess you can hear the stream. Let me show it to you. Well, you know me, I can get to pontificating for quite a while, and I'm not really getting into any particulars. I'm just telling you that what you're told you live in, you don't. The name of the game of these current governments is to oppress and to engage in theft under color of law, under some edict. That's why the Constitution in its original form had so many really incredible things in it. Not that it was perfect, but it was a document we could have built a perfect, more perfect document upon, but instead it's been corrupted. So much so that states enact laws that never get challenged by the Department of Justice for their unconstitutional laws. Well, I wish I could get into particulars, but for the sake of the privacy of those that don't deserve to be pushed out into the public eye, despite the persecutions that they are undergoing and the misunderstandings and maybe even the I don't know that it's this because I don't know the entire situation, but the cruelty that I see. If you know anyone who is fatherless, and I know we all lose our parents as we get older, and I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the young, of course. Young mothers, husband has died for some reason, have small children. If you don't apply mercy and charity in a situation like that, even if these people make mistakes because they're desperate or because the trauma that they're under has been so significant, if you don't reach out and help them, God's not going to judge you too well. And those of you who don't believe in a God who will step in and do something about it, yeah, probably not here, at least not overtly where you'll know it. But it will happen sometime, somewhere. And you'll wonder why and cry to God, why is He allowing this to happen to you? But you won't think back and remember that you were the instrument in causing somebody else's pain. Unnecessary pain. Because you had the force of the state behind you. What is legal is not necessarily right. Matter of fact, very rarely so. And what's illegal is not necessarily bad. Remember, it was legal to drown the women accused of witchcraft in Salem. Just think about that. It was legal to put stars of David on Jews in Germany. It was legal to lynch a black man without even a trial to determine, at least in due process, innocence or guilt. So don't tell me that your law is something so great. It's an abomination. And what I heard the last few days just convinces me that this great land is under a curse. And you have one chance to fix it. One chance. And if you don't stop this political correctness and this worship of the law and of military force, if you don't change, I think a judgment's coming. I don't usually talk like that, but I feel it in my bones. Because you're hypocrites. I don't mean necessarily people who are listening to this. I mean those who are the leaders, the administrators of the law, and the population that no longer has the law of God written in their hearts and in their minds. And even those who say that it's okay to do anything that you want to do because Jesus suffered for you and it's going to be okay in the end. Yeah, right. Right. All right, I pontificated enough. Out here for now.